Hello everyone and welcome back to Double Play Baseball. I'm Jack, he's Ryan, and in today's video we are going to be recapping the Phillies offseason as well as looking ahead to their 2023 season. Ryan, the Phillies, the National League champs in 2022, and they had another big offseason. Do you want to break it down for us?
Yeah, that's wild to hear Phillies as National League champs after what they've been through the while. But they got a lot better this offseason. Obviously, the big add is Trey Turner. You also add Taijuan Walker to that in the rotation. You add Josh Harrison to replace Gene Segura, who you lost. Craig Kimbrell in the bullpen, Gregory Soto as well, and Matt Strahm. That's three good bullpen pieces. Then you lose Noah Syndergaard, Kyle Gibson, Gene Segura, like I said, Zach Eflin as well to the Rays, David Robertson, Johan Camargo, Nick Matone, and Matt Vierling. So a lot of names there, big and small. Jack, which one do you think was the biggest add or loss for the Phillies?
I mean, we're talking about biggest. I do like the moves of Taijuan Walker. I think maybe adding some of these bullpen guys could provide upside. Some of the losses I think they might miss, like a Zach Eflin, but it's got to be Trey Turner. I mean, in my opinion, was the best team and player fit possible in free agency, and they both sides made it come true. Like I don't think that there is a single better fit in free agency than Trey Turner and the Phillies. He's absolutely perfect for that lineup. After you give yours, which I would assume you're going to say Trey Turner as well, I'll break it down, but overall, it's Trey Turner.
Yeah, Trey Turner as well. There was a lot of good shortstops on the market, but I think Trey Turner was the best shortstop on the market. I think we both agree. He's probably the number one shortstop in baseball in general in terms of all the tools that he has. So you add that to a Phillies team that already went to the World Series last year. You make them better without losing too much. Obviously, you lose Harper for the first half of the year, but once he comes back, that's going to be a very scary team. We'll kind of talk about that a little bit more in the what to expect for this coming season. But adding Trey Turner to a team that just went to the World Series, it's a big pickup for them, and it's a very scary team still. And you go ahead and break down that further, but Trey Turner to this Phillies team is, maybe if we look at this as a 2022 offseason recap for all teams, you might say Trey Turner is the biggest add subtract for any team who added anyone.
Yeah, I would agree. And the reason I think it's such a good fit is you go back to our World Series preview, and I said my key to the series for the Phillies was getting people on base for their home run hitters. That's Rhys Hoskins, Kyle Schwarber, and Bryce Harper. Is there anyone better in the entire league, maybe outside of Juan Soto, who gets on base, will start the game off with a base hit? He'll either walk, he can beat out a lot of infield grounders. He's one of the fastest players in the league. He can steal, put himself in scoring position. He's the ultimate table setter, and there's no one that you want to set the table for more than Kyle Schwarber and Rhys Hoskins and Bryce Harper when he's back from injury. And both these sides made it happen. Trey Turner is, as we mentioned, I think we both agree, the best shortstop in baseball, and I think he's even more valuable to a team like the Phillies who scores a lot of runs via the home run, because you can hit a lot of solo shots in a game and not win, because even if you hit 4 solo home runs, and another team could just put up 5 runs and win, but Trey Turner is one of those guys who, if he's coming up 5 times in the game, he's getting on base 2 times, he's getting on base 3 times, and on his best day, 4 or 5, and someone hits a home run behind him with all the power that the Phillies have, it's a 2-run shot, and that's a big difference between 1 run and 2, and Trey Turner is exactly what this Phillies lineup needed, in my opinion.
Yeah, it was one of the few maybe holes that the Phillies had. They've got some great pieces, great batters all the way around the lineup, and you look at shortstop, it was literally a question mark. You had Didi Gregorius for a little bit, and Bryson Stott kind of took over, and now Stott can go back to second base with also losing Gene Segura, and you also had Josh Harrison. So Trey Turner kind of filled a need that the Phillies had, and he'll add some consistency, steady lineup, top of the lineup piece at shortstop, being one of the best, maybe the best shortstop in baseball. So yeah, that combined with just the consistency you get all around in addition to the move, which sometimes is overlooked when you add a big player. You obviously big player, and that's the most important thing. But you look at maybe it helps Bryson Stott kind of play better like he did in the second half after kind of getting some consistency at shortstop. And now he knows if he's going to stay with the Phillies, he's going to be the second baseman of the future with Trey Turner being there for so long. So it can help in more ways than just adding a big player, and I think that's kind of something people don't talk about a lot, but Trey Turner was definitely one of the biggest signings of all of the offseason.
Yeah, and I think the Phillies had an active offseason last year. They signed Kyle Schwarber and Nick Castellanos, but I really like their spending a lot more this offseason because Castellanos and Schwarber even though Schwarber had a great year, I did not think were fits for the Phillies at the time, because you looked at the Phillies as one of the worst defensive teams in the league, and you add two of the worst defensive outfielders in MLB. Castellanos obviously didn't work out as a hitter, and then you have him being the worst defensive right fielder in baseball. And of course, Schwarber's offense pays off for his lack of hitting, but this season it felt like they said, okay, we're going to spend money like last offseason, but we're going to do it in the right places. So they signed Trey Turner, who I love as a fit, and they signed Taijuan Walker, who I think is a perfect fit to be the 3 or 4 starter. And then they look and they say, okay, well, we've got a little bit left over. Where should we go? And they go to the bullpen with some high upside guys who, at the very worst, can eat innings. And, maybe only one of them pans out, but then you have another great reliever at the back. Kimbrel coming off a bad year. Gregory Soto's been an all-star, but he was on the Tigers. He was kind of the only choice to be an all-star on the Tigers, but they made these moves that are low-risk, high-reward potential moves. And overall, whereas, they've been active the last couple off seasons, this time I was really, really happy with the way that they went about spending their money.
Yeah, I think they improved their bullpen as well with those pieces over the guys they lost, like a David Robertson. So you add those 3 pieces and your team gets better, and then obviously you get Taijuan Walker, but you also lose Kyle Gibson, Noah Syndergaard. But Taijuan Walker is now going to be your 3 starter behind Wheeler and Nola. So Taijuan Walker is a great 3 starter, I believe, and they're going to be better, I think, all around with this offseason. And for my grade, I'm going to go ahead and give him an A-. It's one of the higher grades. I try and I'm a little stingy with it. I'm not just throwing out A's to people who I think had a good offseason. So A- is a very good grade, and obviously all those pieces that we've been talking about for a while now it is why. And obviously when you add a player like Trey Turner and then all the supporting players, like you say, you're going to be ranked high without losing kind of a big star that the Phillies have signed previously and kind of grown a little bit as well. So Phillies, I'm going with an A-.
Yeah, I matched you there. I have an A- as well. I was a big fan of their offseason. This is, like you mentioned, one of the higher grades I'm going to give out too. And as I was talking about kind of during it, I think that they spent big, obviously, which you want to reward with a higher grade, and they also spent in the right spots. There are some teams we talked about last year how I didn't love where the Phillies spent their money. This season for the Padres, I mentioned they get Xander Bogaerts, but did they really need him? It felt like Trey Turner was a move where they bring in one of the big free agent shortstops, and it actually fits what their plan is, and it fits what their lineup needed. And I also just liked some of the other moves. Of course, they did lose some players, like I think Zach Eflin, who pitched pretty well in the playoffs, and Gene Segura, who's been consistent for them, if not anything else. And losing some of these other depth pieces keeps them from being an A or an A+, obviously. But really like what the Phillies did, and I think that if we're going to get into what to expect, if they didn't have a good offseason, I think I might have been coming on here like my usual anti-Philly self and saying, I know they made it to the World Series, but this is still a flawed team who felt like they ran into a good stretch going into the playoffs and ended up with the World Series. But if not for the additions of Trey Turner and Taijuan Walker, I might have been saying this team's not going to make the playoffs. But with the offseason and with how much I liked it, I'm going to say that what to expect is they're going to be back in October again. And that's a big change, because I was kind of fully expecting going into the offseason for me to be right back on that agenda that the Phillies aren't going to be a playoff team this year. But I do think they're making it back in October.
I'm going to kind of lump my what to expect and prediction together. And first, the what to expect, I think they're going to have a slow first half, maybe a little negative on the Phillies, with a playoff push coming in the second half. And I think because of I think there's a lack of playoff caliber teams in the National League. So I think they are going to be a playoff team again. And I think even if there were some more, I believe the Phillies are a playoff team. So Phillies fans, don't hate on me saying like, how can you not think they're a playoff team? They still would be a playoff team, but they can benefit from a slow first half and can still have time to figure it out. I think not the Giants, Jack. Unfortunately, I don't think they're going to be in the playoffs. So kind of into my prediction, I think they're going to be the third wildcard team once again. And kind of, like I said, a lot of people want them to be first or second. I talked about this in the Braves video. Want them to be first or second in the division and kind of rise. But I think they're going to third in the division again. And with that third wildcard team, and maybe they'll play better than what a third wildcard team is. But if you're going to be the third place in the division, whoever it is, Braves, Mets, that win it, they're going to be one of the wild card teams. And I think also the Padres or the Dodgers, if the Padres end up winning the NL West, are going to be above them as well. So a third in the wild card. But with that, I'm also going to add some positivity to this and say they're going to win another playoff series. And they're going to make it to the third wild card spot, take on, I'm still trying to get used to it. Would they play the third Wood Division winner, correct? So they'd probably play the Cardinals?
I think so. Well, who did they play last year? Because they beat
the Cardinals.
They played the Cardinals, yeah. So
yeah, so they swept the Cardinals in two, and both in St. Louis. So I think you could see a repeat of that next year. I'm going to go with third in the wild card, but also winning another playoff series. And with that, if you win a playoff series, you can get hot, and maybe you run into some more luck and you make another deep playoff run. But for my prediction, I'm sticking with winning a playoff series.
Well, yeah, because their lineup and their team is still built for those 3-game playoff series, because you're running into Nola and Wheeler in the 2 games. So I think that's definitely possible. I think I agree that if they make the playoffs, it will be the third wild card. And that's not to say that I don't think that they could challenge teams like whoever the first and second are. But without a full season of Bryce Harper, I don't think the team is any higher than the third wild card. Like, I know they're going to get him back at some point, but if you don't have him for the full year, the Phillies team it's a lot different. So I think that they're definitely, with Bryce Harper, a team that could compete for a higher wild card spot, but with the fact they're going to have to play without him, and with the fact that I do think the back half of their rotation and some of the other arms in their bullpen, they can't coast by like they did in the playoffs by only throwing 1 or 2 guys out of the pen. So for a full season, I think that they're not going 100 games. Like, they're not that good of a team, and especially without Bryce Harper. But they're a team that I do think will have that third wild card spot, and I think you're right. They definitely can win playoff series like they did last year.
Yeah, and that's kind of my rationale behind that. For completely failed to mention that Bryce Harper is going to miss the first half, and kind of that's why I had a slow first half and then a playoff push once you get him back. I think they're going to be a much better second half team than first half. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out for them.
I don't think it'll take a managerial firing for that to be the case again this year. I'm not sure
this season.
They can strike gold with that again. My prediction, it's a weird one, but I'm going with Andrew Painter, the right-handed pitching prospect. I think he comes up before the end of the year, and he'll factor into that Phillies postseason run because, like I mentioned, the back half, like the 5th starter, I'm not exactly sure who they're rolling out right now. I would assume it's going to go Nola, Wheeler, Ranger Suarez, and then Taijuan Walker, and then whoever they think the 5th starter is. And Painter's only, I believe, 20 years old right now, but by the end of the year, I think he comes up and he can factor into some of those late September games and work his way into October as well. So one of the best right-hand pitching prospects in baseball, and I think that he'll factor in at least to the end of the Phillies season.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one to see how this plays out.
Yeah, so that's all we've got for the Phillies episode. Make sure you guys let us know down in the comments, are the Phillies a playoff team? Are they not? Can they actually win the World Series this year? They came close, at least in 2022. But let us know down below. Let us know what you thought of their offseason. What grade would you give it? Everything that we talked about, we want to hear your guys' opinion down below as well. The rest of this week, we've got NL East videos coming out, one for each team in Major League Baseball, going division by division. We've done the NL West. We've done the AL West. This is the NL East, and we're bringing on creators at times too. So if you're a fan of the NL East, you probably know a pretty famous NL East creator. We're going to keep his name quiet at least until the video comes out on Friday. But the Friday video going to have a big special guest that we're really excited to talk to. That's all we've got for you guys in this one. Like, subscribe, check out the playlist in the description below. You know the deal. But without further ado, we've been Double Play Podcast, and we'll see you next time.